Joining us now, NBC Shaquille Brewster in Chicago. NBC Sahil Kapoor is on Capitol Hill. Former Republican Congressman of Florida, Carlos Curbelo, is an MSNBC political analyst. And Basil Smikle, former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party and MSNBC political analyst, joins me here in studio. So, Shaq, wow, another showdown in Texas. It's escalating as we get closer to Governor Abbott's 4 p.m. Eastern deadline. So tell us what's happening. Both sides digging in.
That's exactly right. Both sides are completely digging in. You have Governor Abbott, the governor of Texas, saying that these Democrats are running away from their responsibilities, saying that they must show up by that 3 p.m. Central Time deadline or risk removal from the state House of Representatives there. And you have Democrats, I just looked at my inbox, and they're making clear, the Texas House Democrats are making clear they're not responding or returning to the state of Texas today, or at least anytime soon, with a schedule of events. We know later this evening they'll have an event in Chicago area. We know they're appearing at a summit in Boston for state legislatures. And just this morning, you saw a press conference where they joined the governor of New York and used some colorful language in pushing back on Governor Abbott. I want you to listen to the words of one Texas lawmaker.
There is no felony in the Texas Penal Code for what he says. So respectfully, he's making up some okay? He's trying to get sound bites, and he has no legal mechanism. And if he did, subpoenas from Texas don't work in New York, so he gonna come get us how? Subpoenas in Texas don't work in Chicago. He's gonna come get us how? So let me be clear. He's putting up smoke and mirrors.
That doesn't sound like a lawmaker who's planning to return home anytime soon, Chris. And, you know, when you listen to some of the rhetoric here, they're making clear that they're also centering President Donald Trump in this. They're saying that this is a fight to protect democracy. They say that if Texas goes through and is able to get these new maps, to pass these new maps, that can mean Republican control of the House of Representatives, continued Republican control come the midterms. They believe that this is a fight for democracy, and they're asking people from all across the country to help them in this fight.
All right, so Basil, former Attorney General Eric Holder told MSNBC that people all across the U.S. should be concerned about what's happening in Texas. Take a listen.
The stakes are enormous. They're trying to do in Texas is to try to manipulate the results of the 2026 election. People should understand that this is not simply a Texas matter. This is a national matter. Donald Trump is telling Texas Republicans to gerrymander even more than they already have to try to find 5 additional seats in an attempt to have a 2026 election that doesn't go against him.
So, Basil, what are the stakes for the rest of the country if this does, and it could set off a national fight, state by state, tit for tat?
Absolutely right. First of all, I thank you and your writers for using the term left the state, where some outlets have said that these lawmakers have fled the state. This wasn't something done out of fear. This is a sign of strength that Democrats in Texas have shown Democrats across the country in terms of being able to push back on on something that Eric Holder had been campaigning against, right? This really hyper-partisan use of redistricting, particularly in the middle of the census here. So the fact that Eric Holder, has gone back and said, you know what, things that I might have advocated for before no longer apply. I mean, that is a really significant telling. Now, someone used the term political apartheid, and that's exactly what this is, because it's not just about the congressional districts. Remember, you can also change state and local legislative districts. So what they're intending to do is not just increase the number of Republicans, but to isolate not just Democrats, but in particular people of color and poor people in their state. That can happen anywhere else in the country. So it is good that Democrats have decided to make this move. And I would want, as we've already seen, more and more Democratic governors coming together to say, to show a united front against this.
So, Congressman, as Governor Abbott threatens Texas Democrats with fines, arrests, felonies, potentially even their seats, how serious do you think the risk is that they're taking? We should know, because it was well delivered, let's say. Representative Jones, they're going to come get us how? I can't even come close to delivering it the way she did. What do you say, Congressman?
Look, Chris, obviously there's a risk. Obviously there's a risk that some voters don't like the fact that these legislators are leaving their state. But I think most people will perceive that they are doing what they can, that they are playing the cards that they've been dealt. Obviously, this is the only way that they can try to slow down this process. Who knows if they can even stop it. But I also think there's a risk on the part of Republicans being too aggressive and being too heavy-handed. If we just look back at the last 20 years, neither party has been able to maintain a trifecta, meaning control of the White House, the House, and the Senate after those first 2 years. Why? Because the perception that parties, when they have full control of the government, are too aggressive, are too heavy-handed in pushing their policies and in trying to remain in power, that tends to produce a backlash. So while this might help Republicans in Texas, it may hurt them in other swing districts throughout the country.
Sahil, what are you hearing from congressional Democrats?
Well, there's certainly been a lot of anger, Chris. There's also a determination by Democrats to retaliate. They see this mid-decade move in Texas as an escalation of partisan warfare over redistricting, because this time it isn't being driven by a court decision or by some external event. This is simply being pushed by President Trump and Governor Abbott, clearly as a way to expand Republican power and knock out House Democrats who won in existing districts. And now Democrats are insisting they need to fight fire with fire in blue states, and they say they won't unilaterally disarm if Republicans are going all in here. Take a listen to what House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said this morning.
We're only 3 seats short from taking back the House. That is a historically close number. That is what has House Republicans and Donald Trump scared to death of what is going to happen in the midterm election. That's why we're seeing this extraordinary action in Texas. But you also are going to see an extraordinary response from Democrats coast to coast throughout the country and at all points in between.
Now, this is a real vibe shift in the party from the days when Democrats were led by good government activists in their base, tried to ban partisan gerrymandering as recently as 3 years ago when they had the trifecta here in Washington. There's also frustration now, given that some blue states like California and New York have enacted limits on partisan redistricting, including in some places independent commissions, which Democrats in those states are now looking to get around, either by finding loopholes, by changing state laws. Other blue states like Illinois, of course, have already drawn favorable maps for Democrats. This new effort, however, is being led by California Governor Gavin Newsom, who a few days ago tweeted a very hypothetical House map in his state where all 52 seats are blue. And in this case, they could knock out 9 House Republicans. That gives you a sense of the emerging mentality among Democrats. So bottom line, it's unclear what Democrats can do in time for the 2026 midterms. But sooner or later, it looks like they will retaliate if Texas Republicans go forward with this. Chris?
I've been covering redistricting for a long time. I remember the times when there were all these maps in rooms and people were like looking at charts. And now you just plug it all into a computer, right? And then suddenly you have a Gavin Newsom map that shows everything is blue. But look, Democrats have had a problem. There was a poll by AP. 35% of Democrats have negative attributes that they attribute to their party, using words like weak and ineffective. Is this the kind of thing that can help them turn it around?
I absolutely think it can. And just those scenes of Governor Pritzker and Governor Hochul meeting with Democrats from Texas shows that unity. Attorneys general, Democratic attorneys general have band together to fight Donald Trump. Why can't Democratic governors? They're doing it. I think seeing more of that really does help. I would also add the Supreme Court is about to take on a case that may gut the rest of the Voting Rights Act. So there's a lot at stake here. And I would say, you know, for a number of years, Democrats were governed by when they go low, we go high. That worked potentially for a short period of time, but we're not in that space right now. You know, I grew up, if a bully's coming after you, you punch that bully in the nose. That's how you get their attention. And that's what Democrats need to do right now.
So, Congressman, New York Governor Kathy Hochul giving a little note to the control room that I'm going to come to this a little early, but it seems to fit in here. She made a threat of her own if Texas goes ahead and does what they said they're going to do. Let me play for you what Kathy Hochul said.
Republicans are willing to rewrite these rules to give themselves an advantage, then they're leaving us no choice. We must do the same. There's a phrase, you have to fight fire with fire. That is a true statement of how we're feeling right now. I'm exploring with our leaders every option to redraw our state congressional lines as soon as possible.
So here's my question for you. You've been around for a little while, Congressman. I mean, is this a question of redistricting, or for the average voter, who, if you walk down the street and said, how often do congressional districts get redistricted, and based on what? You're not going to get, every 10 years based on the census. That's just not where we are, except, of course, for viewers of MSNBC. So how's the average voter, you think, going to look at this? And is it clear whether one side or the other will get the advantage?
Chris, at the end of the day, I think the average voter is going to just trust government and our institutions even less. I think if you talk to the average American, they want our politicians to work together. They want them to figure things out. They want them to work collaboratively as much as possible. And this is going to result in the complete opposite. The last thing this country needs, having served in Congress, I can tell you the last thing this country needs is more partisan congressional districts, because it is going to lead to more gridlock. It is going to lead to an even nastier tone in our politics. So at the end of the day here, everyone loses. And it's why this action is so dangerous, because it triggers a race to the bottom. You're going to see the blue states do the same thing. And at the end of the day, we're going to have a Congress where no one is even willing to meet or talk to one another. At that point, we are in a very, very serious crisis.